Thank you so much for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Ephraim Graham. Ahead today, Israel preparing to expand its military offensive against Hamas, as Israel says Hamas has been inflating the death toll in Gaza. And a new report says Hamas has been systematically torturing the hostages. We're going to bring you the story from Jerusalem. Here at home, is there division among some of President Donald Trump's supporters over his support for Israel? Some say yes, but others claim it's only a small group of people making a lot of noise. They're called forever chemicals. Here in the United States, they're in the air, the ground, and even the water. And they've been tied to serious health risks, including cancer, infertility, and damage to your organs. We're going to take a look at what's being done to clean them up. And our Studio 5 conversation with husband, father, and pastor, recording artist Jovonta Patton, who is finally being recognized with a major award after years in the music business. We're going to talk with him about his project. It's a birthday recording called Live at First Avenue. All those stories and more right now on CBN NewsWatch.
This is CBN NewsWatch.
It is Wednesday, August 13th, going to begin this half hour in the Middle East, where Israel is moving ahead with its plan to expand the war against Hamas in Gaza, as a new report accuses Hamas of systematically torturing the hostages. And Israel says Hamas is inflating the death toll in Gaza to discredit the Jewish state. CBN's Paul Petit brings us the story, reporting from Jerusalem.
Saying the window has closed on a partial hostage deal, Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu declares the war in Gaza will end on Israel's terms.
It's behind us. We tried. We made all kinds of attempts. We went through a lot, but it turned out that they were just misleading us. And in any case, they will leave a lot of hostages in their hands, both the living and the dead, and we want them all.
This morning, the head of the IDF approved the plans for the expanded offensive in the Gaza Strip. Israel may still send negotiators to Qatar this week to push for a final ceasefire and the release of all hostages, with full support from President Trump.
October 7th was one of the worst days in history. We saw innocent people slaughtered, murdered, kidnapped by Hamas terrorists. The administration has made our goal clear. We want to see this conflict end. We want to see the hostages released. And the president and his national security team have given extensive effort and time to doing that.
The new report given to the Red Cross confirms what the world saw in recent videos. Hamas is systematically torturing Israeli hostages. Israel's health ministry says the 12 hostages freed earlier this year endured sexual harassment, worm-infested food, and months without showers or clean clothes.
We weren't allowed to move. We were starved while they ate in front of us. We were thirsty because they didn't give us water, even though they drank water and ate in front of us. And we weren't allowed to even cry.
The UN put Hamas on a blacklist citing sexual violence during the October 7th attacks. However, it also warned Israel might be put on that same list in the future for alleged abuse of Palestinian detainees. Israel's ambassador to the UN, Danny Danon, called the accusation unfounded and absurd. An Israeli report says Hamas has inflated Palestinian malnutrition deaths in a campaign to discredit Israel.
There are no war crimes. On the contrary, for us, the suffering in Gaza is a tragedy. For Hamas, it's a strategy.
New video shows another Israeli strike taking out 5 armed terrorists posing as humanitarian aid workers for World Central Kitchen. In Jerusalem, Paul Petit, CBN News.
Here at home, the MAGA movement that propelled Donald Trump to office has been rumbling about some of his actions lately. First came the division over the Epstein files, and now there seems to be a split among some supporters when it comes to the president's support for Israel. CBN's chief political analyst David Brody has this story.
America's support for Israel has always been strong, and overall, while it still is, some far-right high-profile influencers have taken a hard turn against the Jewish state.
Everything they're doing is demonic. I want nothing to do with it. I will never support Israel into the future after what they've done to these children, the starvation campaign. I don't care.
Others, like Steve Bannon and Tucker Carlson, want America out of Israel's affairs. Marjorie Taylor Greene, one of MAGA's biggest voices in Congress, has called what's happening in Gaza genocide. Poll numbers also seem to suggest a slight drop in Israeli support among the GOP. 15 years ago, in 2010, Republican support for Israel stood at 85%. Today, it's still strong, yet down to 75%. The more alarming statistic among Republicans today is that 37% have a negative view of the Jewish state. That's up 10% from just 2022, when it was 27%. Part of what's driving some of this MAGA division is coming from younger voters. It's a generation that is much more wary of international conflicts and has bought into President Trump's non-interventionist approach. For example, while 72% of Republicans overall believe America's military should support Israel, only 32% of Gen Z Trump voters feel that way. Julian Becerra, a conservative influencer on TikTok, agrees.
We need to invest in the United States first. And I think it's hypocritical of conservatives to say, yes, we're for deportations. We want to, build a wall, seal up the border, to put America first, but also say, hold on, but because it's Israel, let's go ahead and send them billions of dollars.
It's part of a free-thinking mindset fueled by the powerful social media landscape.
I think the younger demographic, which has access to the social media and understands that platform, can hear the different opposing views, and they're starting to make up their mind and not just have that blind support for it.
While that's true, there are plenty of young conservatives who are pushing back. 19-year-old Breland Hollyhand works with the RNC to get out the Gen Z vote.
I think that that's a fringe that has gotten really loud. It certainly doesn't represent the vast majority of MAGA that I talk to, specifically on college campuses, just from my perspective. For me specifically, this support of Israel isn't a political stance, it's a biblical stance. And it's very clear, repeatedly throughout the Bible that those that bless Israel, the Lord will bless them. That's not something that is old or false or dated. That is still a truth here in 2025.
What's also true in 2025 is a MAGA movement trying to understand where Israel fits into an America First agenda. David Brody, CBN News, Washington.
Coming up, much of America has been drinking water that's contaminated by all sorts of chemicals and poisons. We're going to see who's polluting your water and what's being done to clean it up when we come back. They are called forever chemicals, and here in the United States, they're in our air, our soil, and our water. They've been linked to serious health risks, including cancer, infertility, and organ damage. Despite the danger, federal limits on these chemicals won't take effect until 2031. CBN's Brody Carter brings us this report.
This water looks pristine. People swim in it, fish in it, some even drink from it. But the Cape Fear River beneath the surface is seen as one of the most toxic rivers in all of America. Neighbors, residents, environmentalists point upstream to the ChemWar's Fayetteville plant, where they've been dumping toxic sludge into the river for decades.
At first, we just didn't think it was real. We became aware that there was PFAS in our well water in 2022, which was 5 years after we became aware that there was a PFAS problem in the river here in Wilmington.
These synthetic chemicals, used for decades in everything from cookware to cosmetics, have left a toxic legacy across America. For Ty Jacobus, owner of Honeybird Organic Farm, that legacy literally flows through his backyard. The Cape Fear River watershed, a 200-mile lifeline for communities, has been considered a chemical dumping ground for more than 40 years. First from DuPont, the makers of Teflon, and now its spinoff, ChemWar's.
We got rid of our chickens, shut down sales immediately, and then I went to work on operations, getting everything cleaned up.
His once thriving farm now sits vacant. Poisoned water contaminated his crops, animals, and even their eggs, which tested at 225 times the federal safety guideline.
According to the EPA, drinking water should have PFAS below 4 parts per trillion. But legal doesn't necessarily mean safe, which means millions of people are still drinking contaminated water. Some communities facing much higher contamination rates. And you should know, it's not just in the water.
PFAS are everywhere, in everything, and in all of us.
Short for per and polyfluoroalkyl substances, PFAS are a family of more than 15,000 synthetic chemicals. Praised for their non-stick and stain-resistant properties, they're also nearly indestructible, earning the name Forever Chemicals.
Science is saying this is a bad group of chemicals. Useful, but dangerous.
Dr. Linda Birnbaum, scientist emeritus at the National Institutes of Health Sciences, explains the problem like this. PFAS are built on a bond so strong it doesn't occur in nature and resists breaking down.
These chemicals are going to be with us forever, which is why they're called forever chemicals.
Jacobus discovered that even farming organically couldn't protect him from decades-old contamination, hidden until a 2019 investigation brought it to light.
I have been trying to sell my house. I am below DEQ levels, but since my neighbors are highly contaminated, I cannot sell my home. Are y'all going to buy my house?
I understand you're frustrated.
Under a 2019 legal agreement, the Chemours Fayetteville plant is required to track and reduce PFAS compounds from polluting the air, soil, and water, although scientists have found more than 300 chemicals still in the Cape Fear River.
The groundwater is impossible to clean. So what we've done is try to provide filtration to folks whose groundwater is contaminated. A lot of people fall through the cracks, Ty being one of them. He didn't sample for the chemicals that the consent order covers. He sampled for chemicals that DuPont made, and DuPont is no longer the name of the company. It's now Chemours, so they're not liable for those DuPont chemicals, which is absolutely abhorrent.
Dana Sargent, formerly with the Cape Fear River Watch, has worked to protect the waterways for years.
We're sitting, in front of the river that has 350 chemicals in it. This community was taken by complete surprise. All of the locals, people that live here and that have lived here and have had generations that have lived here, then they're wondering, oh, wait, was that cancer because of that? Should I be feeding this to my baby?
She adds this kind of contamination isn't isolated, and a map from the Environmental Working Group indicates PFAS pollution in communities worldwide. Studies have linked PFAS exposure to increased risks of cancer, infertility, thyroid issues, immune suppression, and organ damage. Investigative journalist Mariah Blake has spent years uncovering the worldwide spread.
And in fact, the U.S. government researched them as part of this top secret medical research program that happened under the Manhattan Project. And they knew as early as 1947 that they were highly toxic and that they were accumulating in human blood.
Blake's book, They Poisoned the World, traces PFAS back to the World War II Manhattan Project. The same chemicals used to enrich uranium then became firefighting foam, spreading across military bases and airports for decades.
Military bases are some of the most contaminated sites anywhere in the world. And in fact, the levels of PFAS in the groundwater around these sites is not only 1,000 times the EPA safety limit, it's oftentimes 1,000,000 times the EPA safety limit.
Despite the EPA recently moved to roll back PFAS regulations, that includes delaying enforcement, reducing staff, and considering a rule to block states from enacting their own bans. Critics say this violates the Safe Drinking Water Act and puts communities at greater risk. In a statement to CBN News, the EPA said it's committed to addressing PFAS in drinking water and ensuring actions follow the law, follow the science, while it's keeping rules for older PFAS chemicals like PFOA and PFOS, which are no longer made in the U.S. It's rolling back regulations on newer, still-produced chemicals like Gen X, citing legal procedural issues. Still, critics say that move gives industry more room to keep producing these toxic chemicals. The Chemours plant denied our request for an interview.
If a company comes under pressure to phase out one chemical, they often just replace it with another chemical that has similar structures and properties, but that hasn't been vetted for safety. And that chemical often ends up being just as harmful.
Still, more than 30 states have passed some 150 bills restricting PFAS, including 18 full or partial bans on consumer products. Companies like 3M have also committed to phase out these chemicals by the end of this year. Today, Ty Jacobus's farm is PFAS-free, although it took years of self-education and thousands of dollars to get here. While federal standards remain years away, communities nationwide are coming together to seek clean water, accountability, and a safer future.
I do think a lot of it's money. I think what eventually makes a difference is getting people to know and getting people to care. The market basket speaks. when people no longer want a product, and that will lead to change.
Reporting in Wilmington, North Carolina, Brody Carter, CBN News.
Turning now to the world of entertainment. After years of making music, he's finally being recognized as a new artist. We're going to bring you our Studio 5 conversation with husband, father, and recording artist Jovonta Patton right after this. Welcome back to CBN News Watch. Husband, father, preacher, and recording artist Jovonta Patton earned his Stellar Award for Best New Artist a little more than a year ago, and it came after multiple albums and years of making music, proving it can take years to become an overnight success. His latest project is a birthday recording, and it's called Live at First Avenue.
Everybody say, I wanna know. I wanna know, I wanna know. Hey, I wanna know, hey, I wanna know. I wanna know, I wanna know.
You won New Artist of the Year at the Stellar Awards about 2 years ago, but you are not new to the industry at that time. How long has this journey been for you?
This music journey has been maybe since I was a teenager, just working with youth choirs and doing some independent records. The record that allowed me to win, God just allowed it to break out, and it was just all around the world and radio, and it just hit, and so here we are, new artists.
Now, you're a husband, a father, and we see the Patton family are fashion models as well. What sparked that venture?
So my family, God just literally walked us through a door one during COVID. Everyone was sitting at home, and a mutual classmate of one of my kids at their school, we went to do like a swim party. And they just kept talking to us about like how beautiful of a family we were. So we were flattered, but then we were just trying to figure out where it's going to, you know? He said, call my sister, and she said, are you guys free to come to a photo shoot? So, you know, most people like, sure, you know, it was COVID, we had nothing to do. We were just trying to figure out what it was. It was all these big computers and producers and people from LA and Target talking back and virtually, and come to behold, we were the family chosen for the whole entire campaign for Halloween. So we were in all the major stores with the Ghostbuster outfits on. We were on all the digital stuff, and it just kept coming. We did Christmas, we did Valentine's Day. It just kept coming, everything. So all of us have worked for the catalog.
Getting back to the music, when did you know you had a voice? What happened?
I always loved to sing. I always had the passion to sing. I always wanted to sing, but I knew I actually had a voice beyond just singing when there would be a lot of gang and gun violence in my community. I would be called for a lot of the funerals and the homegoing services. God just kept using me in that format, and the anointing on my life kept growing, and that's why I realized that I had an anointing for healing and to break grief off of people in the most treacherous moments. So that's where I really feel like I can honestly say I kind of found my voice. It wasn't through doing praise and worship. I mean, I was directing the choir and, different things like that. But where I really found the ministry in my voice was through doing those different homegoing services.
You are Jesus, 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 Jesus. How wonderful is your... Come on, call the greatest name, say.
Now, one of your most popular songs is Your Name. What is the story behind that song? What happened?
That is a great question. So Your Name, I randomly just put it out, and here we are. And now it's just taken over. The streams are going crazy. Churches are singing it. None of it was like this huge plan to promote it. It's heaven's song.
Father, Father, I need you. Somebody say always. Hallelujah.
Another big song has been Always. What's the story behind this one?
Yes, Always was a song that I wrote kind of at the tail end of COVID. And I said, don't just heal me if COVID comes, heal me always. So whatever comes, I want you to do it always. I don't want this to be a one-time occurrence. I want this to be a perpetual healing.
Come on, did you want God to do it for you always? Lift up your worship right here. Hey, always.
Jovonta's Live at First Avenue is available wherever you get your music. Be sure to join us this evening for an all-new edition of Studio 5. We're sitting down for a one-on-one conversation with Pastor Mike Jr. He is nominated for 9 Stellar Awards this weekend, and this year he has a new project as well. You can catch the new episode of Studio 5 on the CBN News Channel. It begins at 8 Eastern. You can also find it on the CBN News app, or you can find it on YouTube. We'll be right back with an encouraging word for your Wednesday. Stay with us. Time now for your Wednesday word, and today's word is integrity. Know this, there is no match for God's integrity. He keeps his promises, and he can be trusted with every area of your life. Give it all to him. He's calling on us all to love him with our whole heart. He wants it all. With that word, make this a wonderful Wednesday, and be sure to have yourself a wonderful rest of the week. Well, that will do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. Remember, you can always find more of our news programs on the CBN News Channel. You can find them there anytime as well as online. That address is cbnnews.com. Take a moment and let us know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can email us, newswatch@cbn.com. You can also reach out and touch us on Facebook, Instagram, and X, formerly known as Twitter. We look forward to seeing you right back here, same time tomorrow. Goodbye, God bless, and thank you so much for watching.